We are not going to be able to calculate Tesla's cash flows in the forecast period unless we forecast the development of other assets and other liabilities. In this lesson, we'll pay attention to the asset side, while the focus of our next lesson will be liabilities. Okay, how do we forecast the rest of the assets that have not been forecasted in the working capital and fixed asset roll-forward sheets? Well, we can agree on the following. Not all assets have to grow proportionally to the business as it grows. For example, if Tesla registered some restricted cash and securities in its assets, this does not mean the company will have to grow the amount of restricted cash and securities as it starts to sell more cars. Okay? In this case, we can model restricted cash as flat for the entire forecast period. The other option is to have an item which would expand at the same pace as revenues. Such is the case with prepaid expenses. I'll simply calculate the average percentage of revenues prepaid expenses accounted for in the historical period, and we'll then apply this percentage to the company's revenues in a given period to obtain the expected prepaid expenses for that period. Okay, so we can have these two types of situations for assets that have not been forecasted yet. The first type will be modeled as flat, while the second as growing at the same pace as the company's revenues. Cash is the only exception. We won't be able to fill in cash before we've calculated net cash flow. Therefore, cash will remain empty for the time being. And we already discussed restricted cash. Trade receivables and inventory were forecasted in the working capital sheet a bit earlier. We also dealt with prepaid expenses, saying it will likely grow as a percentage of revenues. Next on our list, operating lease vehicles. Considering that most of the established auto producers use finance leases, I'll simply model operating lease vehicles as flat for the entire forecast period. And then I'll do the same with solar energy system leased. Such type of lease operations are not part of the company's core business. All right, very well. What about intangible assets? Well, intangible assets are not directly related to a firm's business growth. Plus, most of Tesla's intangible assets, such as brand name and trademarks, are generated internally. Therefore, I'll simply model intangible assets as remaining flat for the entire forecast period. And finally, other assets. We'll have to make a strong assumption here, as we do not know much about the nature of the type of assets contained within other assets. Nevertheless, let's assume that all other assets will have to grow as a percentage of revenues. I'll calculate the average weight of other assets with respect to revenues in the historical period, and we'll apply it to revenues for the respective period to obtain other assets for the entire forecast period. Perfect. This is how we forecasted the development of several asset categories. In our next video, we'll do the same for liabilities. Thanks for watching.